Hey everybody, Clifford Stummy here. I'm the pop song professor, and if you like deeper meanings in your music, you are going to actually probably really like this channel. So, today we're talking about Hotel California by the Eagles, and it's actually Throwback Thursday. I know I missed the weekend Wednesday yesterday, just with moving and all. As you can see, there's been a lot of moving happening, all the bookshelves are gone. This is not the new house yet, but we're getting there. A lot of things have changed. It's gonna be a little bit echoey, but we're gonna keep moving on. I need something from you guys, please. Next Throwback Thursday, what song should I do? Upvote other people whose suggestions you like, and the person who gets the most upvotes is the one we'll probably do. And don't forget to check out Patreon, cool place to support this channel, get some cool perks too. So let's talk about Hotel California. It was written by the Eagles and it was released in 1977. It was written by Don Felder, Don Henley, and then Glenn Frey came up with the lyrics. It's a really interesting song. There's some really deep stuff going here. And I want to try to get as much into detail as possible, but I want to start by looking at the big picture. Now, a lot of people have suggested a lot of different things. People will suggest the Illuminati or Satanism or like a cult or something like that. But the real meaning of Hotel California is that it is a commentary on the status of the American dream and kind of this loss of freedom as a result. Now, in the 1960s in America, there was a lot of social activism. And then there's a couple of quotes I found where they suggest. Actually, let me go ahead and just read it to you. This is from the book Encyclopedia of Great Popular Song Recordings by Steve Sullivan. And he says the discussion of the lost spirit of 1969 that he refers to when the captain says we haven't had that spirit here since 1969. Steve Sullivan suggests that the discussion of the lost spirit of 1969 reflects Henley's and Frey's loathing of disco and related pop music of the mid-1970s, which in their view turned away from the social activism associated with the music of the 1960s. The band had been very politically active, and so they were very frustrated with the way that pop music had gone. There's another really great quote here. Don Henley, one of the writers, says, "On just about every album we made, there was some kind of commentary on the music business and on American culture in general. The hotel itself could be taken as a metaphor not only for the myth-making of Southern California, what with movies and music industry being, compiled there, but for the myth-making that is the American dream, because it is a fine line between the American dream and the American nightmare." And essentially, we're looking at this song here that's kind of about how when you indulge in the American dream and when you take too much to this life of wealth and success and all of these things, and you get so focused on that, you kind of get trapped, and it becomes that American nightmare where you can't get away from it, and for them, that meant losing that social activism. But so now that you kind of know like the big picture here, let's jump into the actual lyrics, and there's going to be a lot more that will relate back to that big idea. So at the beginning, oh, and I should point out too, actually the music is meant to kind of give that sort of lonesome, lonely, wandering, almost mystical feeling. That's probably the reason we get so many theories about the Illuminati, Satanism, cults, weird spirituality. It's very interesting music, and it has almost as much meaning as the lyrics themselves. But in verse 1, Don Henley sings, "On a dark desert highway, cool wind in my hair." So they're in California in the desert there. "Warm smell of colitas rising up through the air." First of all, one of the writers suggested that it was some sort of desert plant, but then a little bit of research on the side suggested it might be marijuana, which would kind of fit with California in the 70s. He says, "Up ahead in the distance, I saw a shimmering light. My head grew heavy and my sight grew dim. I had to stop for the night." So this is the Hotel California he's coming to. "There she stood in the doorway. I heard the mission bell, and I was thinking to myself, this could be heaven or this could be hell." Now we're going to see this she, or at least a female presence later on in the song, and she's going to play an important role in this American dream. For the band moving to California from a lot of their Midwestern locations, or just locations that weren't California, meant that they were brought into contact with a different lifestyle, a more vapid one perhaps, one with less conservative values, and it meant that they got to experience new things. And one of those was different expectations for what relationships look like. So as he's coming up to California, he says, "This could be heaven or this could be hell." Then she lit up a candle and she showed me the way. There were voices down the corridor, I thought I heard him say, "Welcome to the Hotel California." And I think every time you hear the words Hotel California, you can just think California. Such a lovely place, such a lovely face. The face is the superficial outside, so it looks good on the outside. Plenty of room at the Hotel California. California is big. Any time of the year, you can find it here. So if there's anything you want at all in California, it's big, it's spacious, there's room for lots of people to come in here and to enjoy this lifestyle, and we have whatever you need. And then we jump into verse 2, and we get to know a little bit more about this woman who isn't such a great person, but she definitely likes the affluent side of life. She's Tiffany twisted. Tiffany was a jewelry shop, and then she got the Mercedes-Benz. Now, Benz is what happens to you when you are rising for air while diving, and so a lot of people thought that maybe he had misspelled it and that it was actually a Mercedes-Benz, like B-E-N-Z. but it wasn't. It was actually Benz. And so he's kind of like taking two things that have to do with wealth, Tiffany's and Mercedes, and turning them into sort of like a negative thing. So she's stuck. That American dream is sort of an American nightmare, but she doesn't really know it. She got a lot of pretty boys she calls friends, and so she's kind of like a player, I suppose. How they dance in the courtyard, sweet summer sweat. Some dance to remember, some dance to forget. And so everybody comes to California for different reasons. So I called up the captain, please bring me my wine. So he wants like his wine, like the thing that's particular to him, what makes him feel good. And he says, we haven't had that spirit here since 1969. Again, referring to the lack of social activism that had died in the 60s in music when replaced with more poppy music or disco. And still those voices are calling from far away. Wake you up in the middle of the night, just hear him say, and we get back into the chorus about Hotel California. But at the very end, they change the lines. They live in it up at the Hotel California. What a nice surprise. Bring your alibis. And so, you know, come be dishonest. Don't be true about who you really are, and do whatever you want to do. Verse 3 is really interesting. Mirrors on the ceiling, the pink champagne on ice. So it's a very, very expensive, exquisite place. And she said, we are all just prisoners here of our own device. And this is essentially the whole theme of the song in one line. We are prisoners here of our own device. So these people in California, they are trapped by their own love for wealth, or whatever brought them there is what's keeping them there. And they don't have this freedom to go somewhere else or to live a different life. In the master's chambers, they gathered for the feast. Now, who's the masters? Could it be the rich and the really, really wealthy of California, the people who run Hollywood, the people who run the music industry there? No. They stab it with their steely knives, which is a reference to the band Steely Dan, and I don't think there's really a point to having that here. It's just that Steely Dan had referenced the Eagles in one of their songs, and so there was like a fun rivalry between the bands. But they just can't kill the beast. Last thing I remember, I was running for the door. I had to find the passage back to the place I was before. Are they stabbing the master or the feast? I don't really know. I think that it's probably the feast, and maybe it gives me this picture of them stabbing their food like they're mad at what's keeping them there, this beast that's turned them into prisoners of their own device, but it's not fully explained. But he kind of gets, the singer gets afraid, and he decides he's going to run away, so he's running for the door. I had to find the passage back to the place I was before, and then the night man, the guy who's just kind of watching the hotel at night, says, relax, we are programmed to receive. You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave. So you can try to leave the hotel. You can even check out, like, just not pay any attention or care anymore, but you can never leave, like you're stuck here. You are a prisoner of your own device, and California apparently is the kind of place that keeps you there. Now, I would think I would take my chances with California, but I don't think they're talking about vacationing or touring California, or even just moving there for like a sensible, regular job. No, it's like once you get there, they're saying that the allure of wealth, or the allure of more, or the allure of that lifestyle, you'll be too afraid to leave. It's definitely deeper, and it's something very, very personal for them. And I think maybe even more important than the personal, deeper meaning is just what they're saying about a culture and a society that values those sorts of things more than they value, well, what they called in an interview, heart. Yeah, actually, I found the quote here on Wikipedia. The song has been described as being all about American decadence and burnout, too much money, corruption, drugs, and arrogance, too little humility and heart. So it's not necessarily the band that's describing it that way. Yeah, and that quote actually is from Steve Sullivan. Too little humility and heart. And really, I think that in the end is what it boils down to, is they're not, the people in Hotel California came there not because they wanted to live ethically or morally or caring about other people or having, you know, that humility and heart, but because they were searching for that wealth, that money, that sort of dulling of pain, something like that. So anyway, guys, that is my explanation of Hotel California. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Do not forget to comment a Throwback Thursday song for us to talk about next week. It's going to have to be something probably older than at least 2005. That's going to be kind of, I think, our cutoff. And yeah, let me know what you guys think. Upvote the other comments. Don't forget to check out Patreon. There's some really cool behind-the-scenes stuff over there, some podcasts, Google Hangouts. Just had a Google Hangout with the patrons like 2 days ago. Showed them my new house. It was super fun. So, I love you guys. Thanks for watching. Talk to you later.